Alright guys, this is kind of a special video for me. This is the last video that was shot in the old gym before the fire, and any videos further coming out will be in this backdrop or in the new gym when we get that up and running. This is also kind of a special time. This is going to be the first video after we hit 900 subscribers, which I understand that most YouTube channels do 900 in a weekend, and it has taken us years. So it means a lot to me that you guys have stuck around and got us up to 900. That's great. And on top of that, you know, we've got things in motion going for the new gym. I don't have news that I can share yet, other than the fact that we did actually finalize our LLC and have been furiously working on a better business model so that we can bump up business without actually reducing quality, which obviously you know is a massive problem in the martial arts world. So there's a lot of exciting stuff happening right now. And so this video feels like a nexus point or an inflection point of sorts, where it's kind of the end of an old era and the beginning of a new era. And thank you guys so much for being on this ride. Let's get to it. So I mentioned this briefly in the last video, and I think I should give you a little bit more on this here. Range, when we use the wooden dummy, is a pretty important concept. Now, absolutely, you can move from out of range into range. You can use the dummy for that because it's just a static tool. I mean, just like a heavy bag, you can be out of range and use your footwork to get in. Nothing wrong with that. But if I am standing in the pocket, this is how, for a Wing Chun person at least, this is how we would define being in the pocket, okay? So if I take my stance and I set up and I'm here, so I'm standing square 50-50, and I can reach out at, you know, full flat extension of my arms with my palms, touch my opponent, in this case on the face. That's my standard range. And like I've mentioned before, here I can't reach the belly of the dummy. But when I take my step, my weight is sunk in, and I take my step, I can actually reach through. I have penetration on the low line and especially on the high line. It's the same thing when I take my shifted center position. I am not only allowed to, or able to punch, but I can reach all the way through. I have a lot more penetration, and now I have mass driving into the strike. So right there, we see a closing of the distance. Here's the cool thing on that, right? I might be able to penetrate here, but I can also hit with my elbow. Something that people don't realize, if you do the math out in the forms, we throw about twice as many elbows. Actually, I think it's a little over twice as many elbows as we do punches in the forms. Wing Chun loves elbows, so you got to get in range to use them. If you're going to use elbow strikes, you have to get in range to use them. And that's what we're looking at here. I should be able, with a simple shift of my weight or a very small adjustment step, take a step in and elbow. In my opinion, if you're fighting in the pocket, if you're fighting in the danger zone where your opponent can hit you back, you can never be more than a single tempo, a single movement away from your attack. Because in the pocket, you do not have the time, and you just don't have the margin of error to actually make bigger movements. You have to keep things small and tight. It's one of the reasons why we don't take big steps off to the side, and we keep our angles tight to the angles of the arms, because you can't afford larger movements. But people often go, well, what about kicking a Wing Chun, right? You will see some Wing Chun people step way out so that they can do, you know, perfect, beautiful, traditional kicks. It's not really what we're doing. Go back and watch Ip Man doing the wooden dummy. Look at the still photos that are available and look at the 8mm video. His leg is very, very bent when he's making contact with the trunk of the dummy because he's staying in range. Now keep in mind, the kicks are largely hips, knees, legs. You know, they're not generally much above the waist. Doesn't mean they can't be, it means they're not typically there. Higher kicks are riskier. We all know this. They're not bad, they're riskier. And riskier moves are kind of reserved for more advanced people. That's just kind of how it goes. Well, our clue for Wing Chun is when we step back in the dummy and when we step out in the dummy, when we make our movements to kick, we don't really have to change our range much when we're kicking the knee. But when we're kicking the trunk, we do. And all we're doing when we do that is that we're stepping from the range that I showed you before with the palms to the range of the fingertips. We're moving about that much distance. That's it, and that's plenty. So if I line up here in my standard movement, if I take my side step, adjustment step, I don't have to change anything if I want to kick the knee, because from here I'm kicking down through the knee. It's not that big of a deal. I don't need to change my range. But we get to say section 2 in our form, and I step off and I'm clearing the arms. I'm doing this kind of quarter turn side kick. Now you see my leg is not super bent, it's not 90 degrees, but it's not fully extended. Part of that is I want that extension to be able to go through the dummy, and part of that is also managing my range because I need to get back from that kick. We're mostly using our kicks for structure modulation so that we can get to our elbows and our chops and things like that. So when I move in here, this angle is just a hair farther. If I were to do this, if I were to just stand here, it's fingertip range. In our section 6, everybody's form's a little different, but in our section 6, when I step back on the center line, I'm stepping back to about this range. Now we go opposite hand and foot, but if I'm here and I step back, there's my range. I can kick, I can kick, I can kick. It's all fine. Now in the form, we kind of manage tansao. So if you have little T-Rex arms, maybe fingertip range is going to be too close. Maybe the tansao is fine. Even a mansao there might be fine, but you should still be able to make contact on some part of the dummy. If you are of typical proportions, fingertip range should be more than enough to manage that piece. It's close range. It's very, very close range. But you got to have those tools. You got to have that toolbox available to you. You have to be able to kick in close range, even if it's all below the waist kicking. I mean, everybody, goes on and on and on about Thai kicks, especially, leg kicks in Thai boxing, and that's fine. It's a fantastic kick. It's the same range. It's the same range. Whether you are doing a heel kick, a snap kick, a round kick, whatever, that's the range that you got to be in when you are worried about, using that to buckle somebody so that you can get very quickly to an upper body strike, to a clinch, to a throw, something like that. We're not necessarily using those low kicks for knockouts. We're most of the time using them to break down the opponent's structure. Sometimes as a disabling blow, but often just as it means to collapse their structure. And collapsing structure is a fantastic tactic to use, but if you're going to be doing that, you have to be in range to actually make use of it. You don't want to create unnecessary scrambles. So being too far out of the pocket in order to attack somebody's leg is actually just going to expose you to them being able to counter you, to escape, whatever. As opposed to being able to do it in the pocket where you are, again, no more than a single move away from your next technique. I think I've said enough on that today, but it's an important point. So your range management is absolutely important. And if you're going to be saying that you fight close quarters, if you fight in the pocket, then consider it's not just the range where you and your opponent can both touch each other, but have something definitive that you can train with. And for you, according to the techniques that you do, you have to be within a single move from actually managing to do something your opponent. You shouldn't have to take a step, and you shouldn't have to two-step anything. It should all be within a single weight shift, a single adjustment step, whatever. I think that's all I got for you today, and I will talk to you guys later. Good journey.
Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share, give the dog a bone. You can follow us on our other social media accounts, and if you really like us, you can head over to Amazon and buy a shirt. You can also go over to Gumroad and purchase some of our instructional courses. All of the links will be provided and also on our website. If you happen to be in the Phoenix area, we would love to meet you. Come drop in for a class, even just to chat. And if you're looking for a new home, we would be happy to have you. So until next time, good journey.